Welcome back to the State of Sports. I'm Mike Donato,
I'm Charles Wilbur.
and today you've already seen our Metropolitan Division breakdown and preview. Now we're going to talk about our Atlantic one, and hopefully we don't babble on as much as last time.
Yeah, well, obviously the Metropolitan Division had a ton of movement. The Devils are in there. The Rangers were in there. So
You have teams like Columbus losing all of their pieces. There's a lot to talk about.
A lot of teams that we obviously spend a lot of time looking at because that's what's important to us.
But
Important.
But now we're here to discuss the Atlantic Division. And who do you want to kick things off with today?
Let's start with Florida, who actually had a very interesting offseason.
Imagine if they got Panarin too. Like
We're pushing limits here.
They almost did. They almost did,
but I.
But anyway, okay, let's talk about the people who they did get and start things off.
With Sergei Bobrovsky.
We know how Charlie stands on the importance of goaltending, but I think even he will admit that was a necessary upgrade.
Yes,
for the team.
Because if you do have a good goalie, that obviously can help.
I agree.
Having a good goalie could obviously help a lot. So having Sergei Bobrovsky go into the team,
especially when you had Jim Reimer and an old Roberto Luongo.
Yeah. So I really like that move. And starting off, I do like the team. You have guys, obviously we know the obvious guys that are on the team, the Hubertos and the Vinny Trocheck. Vinny Trocheck is one of my favorite players in the league. He's an interesting player.
He's an underrated forward.
Definitely underrated. Had trouble staying healthy last year.
In addition to that, they addressed the biggest need of defense. They brought in Anton Stralman, who he's like 32 now, I believe, but he's still a solid defenseman. Mm. And for them, he'll probably be top four, let's be honest.
If your top four defenseman, their top four defenseman right now is a guy who I look at as being a future Norris candidate, if not sooner rather than later, Aaron Ekblad. Then you have Keith Yandel, who he's an Iron Man. He plays all the time.
And he puts up points, too, a lot defensively. He's a good quarterback of the power play.
Also, Justin Matheson is a very – and for number four defenseman behind Anton Stralman, there are worse teams.
And especially with the lack of depth in that division, I think that's more than good enough to make playoffs from that standpoint, let's be honest.
Especially when you see guys like if Evgeny Dadonov can continue to progress as a good center on that team. We know that they have top forwards. That's not their problem. It's how much production can they get from the bottom guys, or even the middle guys. Because we know if they don't get production, they'll just be top-heavy Florida over and over again, score a lot, give up a lot.
Another thing to note is that they actually have fans at their games.
They have more fans at their games.
I mean, because when they made the playoffs, they still had a lot of seats empty.
The last time they did make the playoffs was against the Islanders.
They lost in 6.
They shouldn't have lost that series. They had many times that they could have won, but we're not talking about 2016.
And they were going up against a backup goaltender in Thomas Greiss at the time.
They had their chances to win, especially against a team that was being carried by one line. Not one player, but one line.
Yeah,
But they had their chances.
That was the John Tavares series.
That was.
But, I think that
like that too.
I think that they'll progress into the playoffs this year, honestly.
I like that too.
I think that they're the third best team in that division.
Yeah.
And moving on to probably the best team in that division, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning, who had the most embarrassing playoff display ever, winning the President's Trophy and then getting swept.
I don't exactly know how you come back from that. Obviously, they will come back from that, but there is definitely some kind.
There's got to be something messed with their psyche after that.
And the fact that I have no idea what was going on. John Cooper was the coach of that team.
Didn't they extend him too?
They did extend him after that. He was wrongfully, in my opinion, nominated for the Jack Adams Award. Didn't win. I thought Rod Brindamore should have been nominated for the Jack Adams.
Here's an interesting thing too to note about them. They also lost their president or GM, and Steve Yzerman.
They did.
What was he, president?
Yes, and he was the GM, and he went back to trying to help his former team, which is in an absolute state of disaster.
Which we'll touch on right after this.
Yeah, the Red Wings are in a state of disaster, but that is besides the point.
We'll talk about them right after we're done with the Lightning.
The Lightning,
the moves they made. What do you think? I make the joke of calling them New York Rangers South.
They are.
That's because they get a bunch of former Rangers. Although they did just lose 2 of them, and Anton Stralman and JT Miller.
Oh, they just
But they brought in another one in Kevin Shattenkirk.
Yay! Kevin Shattenkirk has a very high ceiling for success. We
And
know what he did last year.
There'll be a lot less pressure on him to perform in a team like this, where you have a tremendous amount of more health around you, and he'll actually be healthy going into this season.
There can be times,
years past.
There can be games where he'll find himself on the third pair.
Oh, yeah.
Realistically, they are that deep. They're that good.
And in addition to him, they also brought in more grit and toughness and someone who's been there and done it and just won the cup in Patrick Maroon.
Well, I have my own belief on Patrick Maroon. Obviously, played half a season as a Devil, a mediocre half a season as a Devil.
I forgot he was a Devil.
He was a Devil. The Devils got him from Edmonton to try to add depth in the playoff run that they had 2 seasons ago. He was underwhelming, to say the least. I did not like him very much. He wound his way back to go home, win a cup in St. Louis.
And now he left.
And
now he dipped.
Yeah, now he dipped. Well, there goes a great story.
Where he's another chance at winning again, let's be honest.
He does have it, but on this team, if he is any higher than the third line, there would obviously be some kind of problem going on.
Well, if he played alongside it, even if they moved him up, his stats would probably be inflated because you have someone like Stamkos and Kucherov.
Yeah, they have. Obviously, I don't. Even guys like Yanni Gourde, who I think Yanni Gourde's a tremendously underrated player for a second-line player. I love Yanni Gourde a lot. I think he's a very nice player. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure we both predict them to repeat as division champs. So
of course.
Do you think they'll be the overall one in the East? I think so. Not partly because I think they're better than anyone in the Metro. I just think with the Metro playing as many games against each other, that their points total won't be as high as a team like the Lightning, who will be playing tons of games against teams like the Sabres, the Canadiens, the Senators.
Well, if you look at Tampa Bay and you see
and the Red Wings,
if you look at Tampa Bay's depth chart from top to bottom, I don't see where you have a problem. Last year in the postseason, obviously there's been many teams to not exactly win President's trophies, but to win conferences, to finish second and be bumped out in the first round in shocking fashion. They found ways. They did not just lose. They found ways to lose. They almost invented ways to lose. And especially those games in Columbus were an absolute embarrassment to their team. But exactly where do you go as the team? Well, there's only one way to go, and that's...
Side note, I love John Tortorella.
All right. So we're going to move on to Toronto.
No, Detroit.
Detroit? You want to move on to Detroit?
That's what
Detroit, they're an absolute
We mentioned
mess.
Steve Yzerman.
Steve
so
Yzerman.
We have to get that.
Welcome back. You're not...
You have some heavy lifting
anymore.
to do.
Heavy lifting is putting it lightly. Val Filppula, who won a cup with them in 2008. He's back.
He's what, like 36?
Yeah, after a small stint with the Islanders. He played well for the Islanders, but very limited playing time.
The only other notable moves were what, Joe Namath? Patrick Nemeth?
Yes, Patrick Nemeth. Joe Namath. I would love to see Joe Namath.
Shut up. Patrick Nemeth.
Patrick Nemeth.
For the defense. And
yes.
Adam Ern, who he managed to bring in alongside of him from Tampa.
Yay. They have a lot of work to do.
The only people really who are worth investing in on that team are what? Dylan Larkin, Anthony Mantha.
If even Andre's asking to see you, I guess he's okay, but they don't. That team they're lost.
At least they have their draft picks.
They do, but I don't want to spend too much time talking about them because they are going to finish last.
I'm interested to see what Yzerman does though this
season.
season.
Ottawa's just as bad.
I don't know. That's going to be... Well, they finished above them. Yeah.
Thomas Chabot
They finished above Ottawa, and they didn't lose their best defenseman in the offseason.
That is true.
And one of their best forwards, too, Mike Hoffman. So, want to talk about the Senators now?
Sure. They also have a very long way to go. To put it lightly.
Let's look at the people they brought in, though. Zaitsev,
Bodker,
Anish, Hainsey. Hainsey's old.
Yeah, but fun fact about Ron Hainsey, he actually did not. He was one of the. I think finished second, or is now first, in most games played in a career without ever playing a playoff game until he played a playoff game for Pittsburgh.
That's interesting. Did not know that. Learn something new every day.
Taylor Hall ended up finishing third before he made the playoffs on that list. So,
well, yeah, he was stuck in tragic Edmonton, who kept drafting forward after forward every year with the top 5 pick.
And tragic New Jersey for a first season.
Well, did he drag them into the playoffs?
His second year.
That was first year.
No, second year.
Well.
2017 was a mess. 2018 was not a mess. 2019 was a mess again.
All for Larson. You suck, Edmonton. Back on track.
So what
they also lost Cody Ceci and Mike Hoffman.
But obviously
they didn't do a good job replacing them. In my opinion, they still have a lot of work to do on the blue line.
You know, it's an easy. But what I think what they did do well on the blue line is that they did sign long-term Thomas Chabot, former first-round pick, who has showed a lot of skill. And I like him a lot. He's in his early 20s. He's a great player.
Who do you think finished lower, them or Detroit?
I'm a flip a coin. Seriously, flip a coin. They're both pitiful.
If there's a gun to your head, who do you pick? Finish lower?
Probably Detroit.
Okay.
That's just...
They're both a mess, though.
Yeah, they both have many years to go.
They were the worst team in the league, and they didn't even have their draft pick. They traded it for Matt Duchene, who then they turned around and traded at the deadline.
Matt Duchene, who likes to talk in Ubers. Can't be doing that. But I guess the team that everybody wants to talk about.
Let's get back on a happier note.
The team that everyone wants to talk about is Toronto. Everyone thinks it's Toronto's time to win a cup.
The only thing that's a little concerning is the whole Austin Matthews situation right now for them.
Yeah, well, that was just immaturity and stupidity.
Yeah, but is the league going to act on that?
I don't think it's going to be too much.
I don't think it's going to have that big of an effect, but it's just something to
keep
in the
Toronto
back of your mind.
Toronto.
One interesting thing is they lost a little of their center depth with the trading of Nazem Kadri. Now, yes, there were times where he was stupid and got himself suspended for some dirty hits and stuff, but still, they were 3 deep in centers with Matthews, Tavares, and Kadri, which was insane.
But the trade-off getting Tyson Barrie to go, finally Morgan Riley. Morgan Riley had a terrific season last year, and there's no way of denying that.
That's a huge upgrade over Gardner on the blue line, honestly, I would think, because he doesn't have the same playoff faults that Gardner has a track record of.
Yeah, and I think that, Morgan Riley had a fantastic season, didn't have any help with him whatsoever. That help seems like it has come a little bit. There'll be a second player who is also a very good
take a lot of the load off him.
And I'm not exactly saying that Morgan Riley's going to win, be nominated for a Norris again, but
it'll take a little bit of pressure off him, which he needs.
Yes.
I think that they'll finish second in the division, but I wouldn't be surprised if they challenge the Lightning for the top spot in that division.
Yes. And if any Leaf fans are watching this and you want me to talk about how good Fredrik Andersen, I will not. He's a goalie.
He is a good
He has played very well, though.
But they have Curtis Oh, no, that's Tampa. I got Curtis McElhinney. My bad.
There you go. He could be a backup. Because Louis Domingue, possibly the best right-handed catcher of all time.
Okay, let's move on.
We don't have a little humor.
Next, a team that I think will regress this season, Boston. Now, I don't think that they have a bad squad. It's just they didn't really do anything. And sometimes there's times to do that, but when you have an old squad, you have Zdeno Chara, who's on the wrong side of 40. Marchand, yes, he had a great season,
40,
but he's on the wrong side of 30 too. And
absolutely love that.
Well, and Krejci's old.
Yeah,
they just have a very aging squad, and they didn't really do anything. And all they brought in was Richie.
I look at their team, and their team is
it's
pretty nice, and I absolutely
it's good, but I just don't think that they're gonna have the same production that they did last year. Like, look how old they are now. They're starting to break down a little bit.
Yeah, of course not. But I think Boston will definitely finish top 3. I
think that Florida is going to finish slightly above them, but if a team from the Atlantic was to make a wild card, it would either be them or Florida, whichever doesn't finish the third.
Hey, Boston does have good young pieces. I like Charlie McAvoy, and if he could keep taking those nice steps forward, it will be a very nice thing for the team and very helpful, obviously. So I like Charlie McAvoy, and I like a few other pieces that they do have. Obviously, they might be a
David
little older.
Pastrnak.
David Pastrnak, but
He's relatively young.
the young guys that they do have
They have a good.
are nice.
They have a good goaltending tandem too.
Oh, we're going to talk about goaltending.
Let's be honest. Come on.
They do have a nice
Tuukka
goaltending
Rask
tandem.
and Yaroslav Halak, right?
Yes.
The good thing with Halak was he was able to keep Rask fresh because he was a serviceable backup who was capable of starting like 30 games a year, right?
Yes.
And that allowed the Bruins to keep Rask fresh, and which ultimately helped them in their playoff run. Like you saw, he looked like he was a lot younger and better.
Yes, well, so that was very nice. So.
And just to kick, or oh wait, no, we still have Canadians. And I forgot. I thought we just had Sabres.
The Canadians and Sabres remaining.
And which one do you want to go with first?
I think the Canadians are an interesting team to look at.
Yes, you have Carey Price. We know that, Canadians fans.
Please stop telling me that Carey Price is the best goalie in the league. We know that, but he's also a goalie. Moving on from this.
Okay, so the moves didn't lose anyone noteworthy.
They did not lose anyone.
They brought in a former Devil.
Yes, Keith Kincaid, who was a very important piece of the Devils 2 years ago in making the postseason. He's going to start about like a handful of games here and there. Obviously, he'll get the back end of back-to-backs, the easy side of them, all that kind of stuff. So, Keith Kincaid.
But like we said with the Bruins, like he's not Yaroslav Halak. He's not going to be able to keep Price fresh. And also with the teams ahead of them in division, they're going to need to play Price a lot more and rely on him more, which in the long run isn't going to be the best solution, I don't think.
I think the biggest thing I look at when people talk about Montreal is, can Shea Weber stay healthy? I know Shea Weber is not the same Shea Weber
he's getting up there in age.
I know he's not the same Shea Weber he was in 2010, 2011, 2012. But Shea Weber, last year, the team was totally different when he was on the team. And obviously, when you brought up younger guys like Kasperi Kotkaniemi, who is an absolute tremendous player, has a huge upside, can he have that? I'm not expecting him to have a breakout season. He's not even 20 yet. But he is definitely a player that you can look at to say if anyone can have a breakout season, he can be that guy.
I also think that Jonathan Drouin will take another step up this year.
Drouin's a very nice
putting
player.
up more points.
They've got
a very good player. I think the Lightning made a mistake years ago letting him go. They didn't have the ice time for him, unfortunately.
They've got a lot of really nice pieces, but I do not think that I do not know if they have enough depth. They have a lot of question marks, Montreal.
They'll be a fun team to watch, I think. I just don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I think they're a year or two away.
I don't, but they are they capable of repeating a 90-point season again?
I think they're in the range. I'd say like 85.
But nowadays, 90 points.
I predict more 85 range.
Yeah, and nowadays 90 points is not going to get you a playoff spot anymore. It's now around 95.
Well, it might in the Atlantic, let's be honest.
In the Atlantic, it's definitely a possibility, but if you look at the top teams, obviously, there are top teams that create a gap.
They're very top-heavy, that division.
Yes, and
since we spoke about at the bottom of the division, made a few jokes at the Buffalo's expense, especially in the last video. I think you're going to have some fun with this, so I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Well, there is a former Devil and a former Ranger that are new acquisitions for the team.
The sad thing is, VC might actually play alongside of Jack Eichel.
Jack Eichel.
I feel bad for him. I'd get out now while you can.
You know, I look at their team and their defense is actually not that bad. They're obviously again.
I'll give them that. They have a solid defensive core.
You have the Rasmuses,
Dahlin
and Ristolainen, who are very nice players.
Good.
But they seem like a team that, like I said, they kind of in the last video, they kind of look like a TV dinner thrown together. You've got talented players that you have former first-round picks like Eichel and Reinhart. But you've got a lot of question marks.
Especially
at forward, at
they
wing.
have a huge question mark between the pipes, if you ask me, honestly.
Well, Carter Hutton is not exactly the guy.
And Linus Ullmark.
And when I say that goaltending does not matter, I should clarify
you need to have an average goaltender.
An adequate goaltender. Carter Hutton, I do not consider fully adequate, but
I would agree.
I don't consider Matt a
And
player,
Linus Ullmark, too.
Linus Ullmark is... that's okay. That's just when we can talk about goaltending, not when it's.
They're not a mess like the other teams in the bottom of that division. They have the right core. It's just they need They need a better supporting cast for that core.
They have a gigantic disparity between ages of certain players. You have players that they say veteran leadership. I just believe that's a good way of saying he's old.
He's old and not good enough to play the meaningful minutes. He's a good dressing room guy, is what I'm saying, I think. Right?
So that's just another way of saying what we said earlier.
Not good enough.
They are an interesting team that will probably not be good, but
they'll be fun to watch.
They've got interesting pieces.
They have the pieces to make a run for a playoff spot. I just don't think that they will do it.
Oh no, they've got pieces for future years, but
they have the pieces to where they could make it exciting. But I just don't think they're going to this year. I think they're at least another year or two away.
Yeah. So
they need a better supporting cast for their core, and they need someone better between the pipes.
Now that we have discussed all the teams,
what is your prediction for the standing?
I don't think that anyone could say anything besides Tampa Bay Tampa Bay, Toronto, or Boston. I don't think anyone could disagree.
I think the Panthers might make it into the 3.
I think the Panthers could definitely finish 4th.
So we're definitely saying, obviously, Tampa and Toronto 1-2.
And Canadians fans, I understand that you are fully biased.
Okay,
that you're better than Florida. I am sorry. I do not agree.
I think Florida's more rounded.
But I will say that, like I said earlier, Montreal does have pieces that can help them break out. So it's not out of the realm of reality that they could finish 4th, but I do not see that exactly being the case.
So you have them in 5th. I do as well. The difference is I have Florida in 3rd and Boston in 4.
That's very
unique. I said, the age. I'm just concerned about the age of the team in general. I think that they're going to regress. They didn't make any moves. While you saw the rest of the division all made significant moves.
Yeah.
So I have them there, and then 6th place Buffalo.
There you go.
7th I have Detroit, and 8th Ottawa again. I'm sorry, Ottawa. You were the worst team in the league, and you didn't have your draft pick.
Flip a coin, really. Flip a coin. I don't really think it's much of a discussion who's going to be worse unless it's between the two fan bases. Because this is just...
The reason why I'm putting them above is because Steve Yzerman. I know he'll find something.
Yeah, but we all know they have 70-point seasons written all over them. Maybe even less.
That's just it could potentially be lower.
It could be lower, but I think that's a good over/under. 70 is bad nowadays.
At least it'll get them a good draft pick.
In the era of 3-point games,
2.
Well, 3 points.
Oh,
if you go to overtime.
Yep.
In the era of 3-point games, if you are under 70 points, you are horrific.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
So, that's going to wrap up our coverage on the Atlantic Division. Well, next time you hear from us, it'll be us bringing you the preview for the Central.
Yay!
So, everyone, have a good night. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching.
See you guys.